Hey there everybody, my name is Kat Bowser. I'm your resident fantasy therapist and welcome back to my channel. Those of you here for the first time, welcome. My name is Kat Bowser. I'm a licensed therapist. I'm also a writer working on my first two novels, one the start of a series, one a standalone. And on my channel I talk about what I consider to be the heart of all writing, and that's the characters. And the heart of the characters is in their psychology. So that's the angle I like to take with pretty much everything I talk about on my channel. So last week I didn't have many videos to go up. I think I put up a character tag earlier. I don't remember what day it was. But basically last week I wasn't feeling well and I had to get some dental work done. So I'm hoping I can make up for it this week. So today I'm going to start off with actually a new book review for you guys. I haven't done one in a while and I've actually been reading quite a few books. So today I want to talk about Splitter by Kaitlyn Keller. I hope I said her name right. She was nice enough to send me an autographed copy. I bought an autographed copy from her off Twitter. And I'm real picky on my horror. I don't know why. Horror is one of those genres that it's been really hard for me to find one that I really like. But this one's an exception. I loved this book. So those of you that are chiming in for the first time for one of my book reviews, I typically do pretty simple format. I'll give you guys a summary of the book. I typically go with what's on the back cover because all my reviews are spoiler free unless I say otherwise. And then I will tell you guys what I liked, what I thought needed work, and what I thought was unique about it. And then I always end with what I call a psychological realism scale, which is basically where I take any psychological issues that are brought up in the book. Sometimes it's something as simple as character reactions to their situation, things like that. And I tell you how realistic I feel it was. So that being said, we'll just jump right into it. So we'll start with just the summary. Run, hide, fight. Splitters are coming. When 23-year-old Mackenzie Foster wakes up in Currett Manor to find herself captive to a sadistic stranger, she doesn't panic or cower in a corner. Instead, using her knowledge of horror video games, she comes up with a plan and prepares for the worst. But with insane, faceless creatures lurking the halls, notes detailing the experiments taking place inside, and a timid school teacher who's more of a hindrance than a help, surviving the night might be more than she's capable of. So, what did I like about this book? This is survival horror, which is my favorite type of horror. It's basically a type of horror where just like the books, honestly, just like the book says, it's like a video game. And I grew up on that type of horror where basically you're stuck in a manor or you're stuck somewhere and you have to fight your way out and survive your way out. And I don't know why, but that's always been my favorite type of horror. And I always love horror that you have to figure things out. It's not just a matter of overpowering someone's. You have to figure out clues, figure out secrets, and that's one thing this book does really, really well. I think that the way the clues are kind of scattered through the book is very, very interesting because you don't get your answers right away. And sometimes you're not even sure if what you're reading is an answer or if it's just something to kind of throw you off. And I like that. I like characters that are smart, which Mackenzie definitely is. She reacts realistically to the situation, but she reacts in a way you can tell that she's dealt with some stuff. So her reactions make a lot of sense to me. And I like the way she interacts with the other character because it's an alliance and she has some protective nature over him, but she gets irritated with him and she gets frustrated, and I think that's a very realistic response because in a survival situation, if you have someone who is not really pulling their weight, it would be very frustrating. But the author does a really good job of showing us Mackenzie's morals more so than telling us. And I really think that serves well, and it helps to really explain kind of why she puts up with this other character so long. What do I think needed work? You know, I almost think the beginning is almost unnecessary. Like, I can see why the author put it in, but I think you could probably rewrite the story and cut out the first chapter entirely. But it doesn't drag the story down. I still enjoyed the first chapter. I don't know, it just feels like it's such a tonal shift from the first chapter to the rest of the story that it feels a little off. I think that was really my main complaint with this book, is just the beginning felt kind of off as opposed to the rest of the story. So yeah, that's what I'm gonna go with. Just I really feel like the first chapter was unnecessary, and the information you need from the first chapter could have been woven in a little easier. What did I find unique about this book? I love that this book completely recognizes the video game tropes, and it plays with it, and it just goes with it. I love actually the horror survival video game tropes, and they are in here, and the thing I like is they kind of scatter them. So some of them are played straight, some of them are kind of turned on their head, but I love how Mackenzie is very much aware of essentially the genre that this book is, and it's not afraid to poke fun of it. And just the way that the story is written, I enjoy that we get a little bit from the antagonist's point of view, but it's not as deep as Mackenzie's. So we kind of see enough to make us nervous from the antagonist, but not enough that we completely understand the antagonist. And I think that's a really good balance, and it's really hard to get that type of balance. The third thing I really like falls into the psychological section, so I'll leave that off here. I just really enjoy the pace in this book. It's very survival horror video game pace. You have some moments of quiet, you have some moments of action, you have a lot of mystery, you have clues that are scattered throughout the story that you have to figure out. And I just think the mixture works very, very well. So that brings me to my last section, which is my psychological realism section. And I rank books from 1 to 5 on the psychological realism scale. 5 I reserve either for books that are true stories or have been heavily influenced by true stories. I would give this one, honestly, a 4, which is the highest I can give, because it tackles what I think are very interesting topics. Survivor guilt. This is a very in-depth psychological response to trauma, and it's not one that I see addressed well very often. Usually people just kind of tackle the surface of it. This one, they dig into it, and they really bring to light that even if it doesn't make sense on a rational level, emotionally it makes sense. And I think that's a really good distinction that we don't see nearly enough of. There are triggers, there are things that pop up and make the characters remember this traumatic experience they've been through. And that's very much, honestly, how people that have been through trauma will often react if they've started to, in a way, heal from their trauma. There are still things that will bring the memory up, especially if it's raw, and especially if it's something they haven't fully processed. And you see that here. There is also strong connection to items or memories or places that also very reminiscent of people that have been through grief and loss, and so I enjoy seeing that. Like I said, I'm not going to give you guys spoilers, so that's about them as much as I can tell you, but it's done very, very well. It's done very respectfully, and so I have to give it a 4. So overall, I gave this book 5 stars because it took me 2 days to read it. I got it, read half of it the first day I got it, finished it the second day. Anytime I get a book that I cannot put down, I always rank it high. And then I go back and I read it again. And I read this through a second time, knowing what happens, and I enjoyed it just as much. So if you like horror, specifically survival horror, which like I said, tends to be hard to find, I definitely highly recommend you check this book out. Has great characters, and I love the psychological angle that is woven into the plot. So it doesn't just stick out like, hey, I'm gonna preach at you right now. It's part of the plot, and that makes it great. So thank you guys for chiming in for my book review. I hope you found it interesting, and I hope you go give this book a try if it sounds like something you would be interested in. As always, if you guys have comments or suggestions, feel free to leave them below. I will get to them as soon as I can. And if you want to never miss when I upload, make sure you subscribe and ring that bell so you get notified whenever my videos go up. I try to upload twice a week, once beginning of the week, once the end of the week. And until next time, take care and have a good one.